welcome back to the Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago, right here on the Big Three, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, iTunes, broadcasting live on BeatNetworkOnline.com.
This is a terrible accent.
That's like my best Sean Connery, dude.
That's your best Sean Connery?
That's probably my best Sean Connery. You know, he talks like Cheryl, Mr.
Hello
Neff.
there, son of folks.
So, hello, son of folks.
Hello, son of folks.
What's up? Welcome back to Back to Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago, right here on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and I'm missing some stuff, but wherever you can find us, that's where we are. Of course, I'm your guy, Jay Alonzo, with me, as always.
David Danger Neff. What's going on, partner?
It's been a long week.
It has been a week, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a long week, but we're getting stuff done. Got a lot to cover. No, not really. Not really.
I think, well, look, we could go into some of the trailers, and really the only trailer that dropped was Sonic the Hedgehog. Which is, we'll see. I don't think it looks good.
I don't love it. It's promising.
But I got to give it to Jim Carrey because he actually I'm kind of digging his role.
He looks committed to the role.
Yeah.
So for that, I'm kind of into it. I just never think like Sonic the Hedgehog would make a good movie.
I'm there with you.
Not
I remember the TV show, and the TV show was decent. Mm-hmm. Like there were a lot of good moments in it, but in terms of like a movie, I'm kind of there with you.
Yeah, well, you know, it's really gonna be riding on Jim Carrey and what he does with Robotnik.
Yeah, I agree.
So, we are going to skip a few things today, in light of a recent event, tragic event actually.
Before we get into that, so of course we could talk about Game of Thrones spoilers. We could talk about Endgame spoilers. But in my eyes, I still feel like it's almost too soon to talk about it, especially because, well, let's face it, I'm certain nobody has actually seen it. Or I'm certain that not everybody has been able to see it. Not nobody's seen it. Everybody's seen it. But not everybody has been able to see it.
It made $1.5 billion over the weekend. I'm sure most have seen it.
Yeah, $1.5 billion is incredibly impressive. Also, the Game of Thrones episode was the most watched Game of Thrones episode ever at that point. So I know people look for kind of a spoiler side for this. I personally don't ever feel comfortable doing that, mainly because I want people to be able to experience it in their own eyes and formulate their own opinions about it. But that being said, please check out both Game of Thrones this final season and, of course, Endgame. I can tell you it is an excellent journey. That's all I got on that.
See Endgame. It's really good. That's all we'll say about it. It's really good. Now, back to what I was saying. Essentially, we hate doing this. We hate having to sit here and remember the awesome work of somebody in this industry who, you know, made a landmark, groundbreaking, their career in so many different films. And today we mourn the loss, but also we celebrate the life, the career, the groundbreaking work of the great John Singleton, who passed away as we recorded the show. He passed away yesterday. He was on life support, and after a statement from the family came out that they were deciding to take him off life support, and obviously he died shortly after. So we wanted to take some time out before we get to the actual, to today's movie, to kind of take some time out to remember, in my opinion, the legend that is John Singleton. From a personal perspective, John Singleton, like many others in my position, ones who were trying to break out into the industry. Shout out to Hollywood Kev, because we had a brief conversation about this the other day, and he knocked down the doors to the young generation like myself who wanted to act, who wanted to write, who wanted to direct, letting us know that you too could bust through these doors and not have a fear of doing so. And you realize that no one was going to tell the stories that you wanted to see unless you yourself did it. And that couldn't be more relevant than to, his first film, which is ironically, his first film was the same film that got him his Oscar nomination,
Right.
which was Boys in the Hood, the classic Boys in the Hood.
Now, Singleton was 24 years old when he directed and created Boys in the Hood, and being the youngest and first ever African American to be nominated for the award. So two things checked off there. One, he was the youngest ever person to be nominated for Best Director, and he was the first African American to actually do so. That laid the groundwork for future directors in the African American community, Black community, however way you want to call it, as well as having Hollywood really take a chance into that life. Let's keep in mind of a couple things here, leading up to movies like this. Before Boys in the Hood, in my eyes, they're really you basically had two forms of African American movies. You had either the blaxploitation films, right, of the 60s and 70s, and trickle of the early 80s, and then you had a lot of comedies, but they mainly hit from the 1920s, 30s, moving forward. Of the 1920s and 30s, as well as the 1960s of African American films. There wasn't really a true modern day version of what would be created as I guess you could say, the thug culture movies that Boys in the Hood personify.
To jump in real quick, I wouldn't necessarily call it the thug culture. What Boys in the Hood?
Thug culture is a really, really bad word, and I can't. What would you call it?
To personify it the best way, John Singleton created films simply from the Black perspective. It was especially with Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood gave you a deep look inside of what it's like to grow up in the neighborhood in South Central LA,
right? And
around that time.
And my apologies for my wording there, because the truth is that you're absolutely right. It did definitely take the idea of a poor Black neighborhood and the lifestyle that was basically presented and the opportunities that were presented to them in that case. I can say this: when I was in film school, this was one of the movies that we absolutely had to watch and had to take notes on and all of it. Now keep in mind, everybody had had an image at the time of what a Black male would represent. Nobody felt like there wasn't really a role for the Black community in movies that wasn't a comedy, which is where you get your Richard Pryors and Eddie Murphys, or into your action and dramas, which really was kind of hamstrung by Sidney Poitier. After that, there were definitely actors out there, but everybody felt like, oh, okay, well, so and so such actor, they were casted off to the side. That was so wrong. And what John Singleton did was really try to emphasize and show that there's so much more to the culture that's out there, and it's incredibly important what he did. All his wonderful work.
And what began with Boys in the Hood just took off with Poetic Justice and Higher Learning and Rosewood and Shaft and Baby Boy, Too Fast, Too Furious, Four Brothers, Hustle and Flow, Black Snake Moan. Like he personified the Black experience in cinema. Written by, produced by, directed by a Black man. Not to mention all the careers he launched as a director. We wouldn't have a Regina King or a Morris Chestnut or an Ice Cube, for that matter, as far as in films.
We wouldn't have Empire.
No Empire, no Cuba Gooding Jr., no Nia Long. It's one of those. It's one of those things where people who do recognize him for the genius that he was, it's a whole other thing to really think about what we actually lost as not just the African American community, as a film industry community completely. Like Boys in the Hood was the first movie, the first all black, directed by, written by, produced by, starring that Columbia Pictures actually picked up.
Yeah.
And got them the Oscar nomination. You know, so when I say groundbreaking, we don't use that term loosely. He literally broke the mold for something that we use today.
It's true.
You know,
you're definitely not wrong on that. You know,
thinking about it yesterday when we got the news that he passed away, I was saddened because I remember being a young kid growing up in Los Angeles and seeing Higher Learning for the first time, and seeing, as a young kid too, seeing Boys in the Hood for the first time, seeing Rosewood for the first time, and really seeing how he puts his mark on certain films. And hell, even when he branched off the African American thing, and then he did Too Fast, Too Furious,
right?
And simply off the sheer fun, like, damn, I wish I'd have thought of that, And he still took his stamp. And the movie itself, I personally enjoyed Too Fast and Furious, but a lot of people didn't. But at the same time, he took his stamp of what a John Singleton film is and made it his own. So Baby Boy, the man had an incredible look at life, especially at life through the eyes of Black. So it's an incredible loss for me. Do you have a favorite John Singleton movie?
It would be Boys in the Hood. No doubt about it. I mean, Boys in the Hood, first of all, there was inspiration for this film. And one of them is one of my personal favorites, which is Rob Reiner's Stand By Me. There was definitely an inspiration, especially early on in the movie, where you have the four young boys take the trip to see the dead body and the closing fade out of Doughboy.
Right.
That was shot for shot, Stand By Me in that case. It's kind of tough to top that. Four Brothers is also incredibly well made, but there was something when you're 24 years old and think of the energy that he had to bring into that. You're 24 years old, right. 24 years old, and what are you actually thinking about in the early 90s? What were we thinking about when we were 24 years old? We were just
not groundbreaking films.
Look, we were probably, to be honest, we were probably just finally starting to mature out from the craziness of from 18 up into that point, where maybe some guys experienced heartbreak. Some guys are just getting out of the military. You have such an image of what the world is from 18 to a certain point that now 24, you're starting to mature. And he made Boys in the Hood.
First, Boys in the Hood was his spec script at USC, which he made into an actual feature film. And on his first feature film, got the Oscar nomination. And once again, the groundbreaking term is used so loosely, but you have to use it where it's due. And John Singleton broke the mold for a lot of people. And Hollywood is mourning like you wouldn't believe, because once again, without John Singleton, we wouldn't have these films that we can live with the rest of our lives. As far as these movies fall into the category of something that you see when you're younger, and then you watch it again as you get older and realize, like, I get where you're going with this. Like, I finally understand. Like, when I first seen Boys in the Hood, I was a kid. I was a young kid. So, a lot of things that I saw then I didn't quite understand. But watching now as an adult, it's a fucked up movie, but at the same time, it's reality. And that's what people deal with. It
was reality. It was reality for unfortunately a lot of young men growing up during that period, and especially because of the time that it was released, 1991. It's when the LA riots, happened. And it's South Central LA. Right. It was it took a lot of guts to kind of finally put an image to what people always personify, because there's a quote that's said by D.L. Hughley, and I'm almost certain that was the case back in the early 90s, and probably still is the case now, whereas the most dangerous place for a black man is in the thoughts of the white man. And as a white guy, I definitely feel that. because there are certain opportunities that are just that maybe it's given a little bit more opportunity, but we can't cut it. We can't call it clear and dry where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's 1-to-1 ratio,
Right.
no problem. Everybody has the same amount of equality. No, it's not. And that's what Singleton was personifying with Boys in the Hood. He was personifying that these kids do not have the same opportunities that you guys have.
Right.
You know, it didn't matter, like, you know, and a lot of people are going to complain, and some people are going to complain after the show about, I don't know what I'm talking about, but the bottom line is that there was something that he brought there that should speak to everybody, where it says this was a situation for people not that long ago.
Even to this day.
1991 is not that long ago.
Right.
1991 isn't even 30 years ago.
Right.
You know,
it's literally when you become a product of your environment.
Exactly.
And this is him showcasing exactly that. Now, even for me, another thing I found incredibly just beautiful about this man's career is that we have these movies that we can live on with forever, but let's not forget he directed the Remember the Time video with Michael Jackson.
Right.
He created Snowfall, which is currently on FX now. I mean, he directed episodes of Billions, and he had his hand in so many different things. And 51 is such a young age to go. You can only imagine what he had still, cooking, and he was still looking for his swan song, if you will, before he actually retired from the game. And he said he wanted to do a 2.
But at 51, you're still too young to even retire from the game.
It really isn't. You're right. You're absolutely right. So the fact that he was at 51 years old. Think about other greats we lost at 50. Bernie Mac died at 50.
Right.
Michael Jackson died at 50. So it's just it's a heartbreaking thing, but at the same time, we are left with an incredible body of work as far as the films he worked on, the TV show he's worked on. Once again, the Remember the Time video, which I forgot he actually did. And it's just, as a young black man in this industry, finding my footing, he, to me, especially me, he showed what you need to do and how you need to survive and make a name for yourself. Instead of going out and trying to have somebody give you the opportunity, fucking create one. And for that, I'm forever thankful for the life and the legacy of the legend himself, John Singleton. So it is a tough loss. It really is a tough loss. But at the same time, he definitely didn't leave us with nothing. He gave us an incredible body of work.
Yep.
That will live on forever.
I agree. 100%.
So with that being said, on behalf of Back to Classics Beat Network, we want to send our love and condolences to the Singleton family, to all the fans and his friends out there, and above all else, rest in heaven, John Singleton. All right.
So now that we've gotten through that,
it was tough.
It's always tough doing those.
It really is.
It's not because we don't celebrate the life, but it's like starting off a podcast as something sad,
right?
Not exactly something that everybody's going to want to hear. But I feel like people are going to want to hear what we have to say there.
Absolutely. So we are
2-minute drill. Then we'll skip it.
Let's skip it today. We'll skip it today. So today's movie today. I've said today way too many times today. But today's movie, we are taking it back to 1999.
I really hope the camera got your facial expression there.
I was like,
you're like, you sure, man?
Nah, not today. I'm good. Take it back to 1999 with the Sean Connery, Catherine Zeta-Jones crime caper, Entrapment. Original release date, April 30th of 1999. Actually, as we're recording the show today, the movie turns 20 years old today.
Yeah. Good for it.
All right. Shares opening weekend with Idle Hands. Funny note, by the way, me and Dave were literally sitting in my living room the other day. We weren't going to cut this movie, but we wanted to slide Idle Hands in there somewhere. I love Idle Hands.
Okay. 1999, how old was I? 11?
1999, if you were 11, I had to be about...
April 1999, I would have been 11.
I'm probably about 10.
So...
I was 11 too. Well, turning 11.
Idle Hands was one of those movies that it just didn't sit right with me. And when I watched it the first time, I actually had a nightmare that night about it. And afterwards, like I was just like, you know what? I'm just not feeling it. You know,
It's not everybody's cup of
it
tea.
wasn't. It wasn't until probably like, okay, because we had one video store, and that video store literally had maybe 50 movies. So
Where the hell were you?
Aviano.
Oh, that's right.
In Italy.
That's right.
I was in Italy at the time. So it's like, so we had our theaters, and the theaters had, whatever movie was showing. So like mom would just drop you off at the theaters at the time. Mm-hmm. So keep in mind, so movies that like were voodoo, you can't show kids. Yeah, no, I was there. Mm-hmm. Like my sister and I watched The Cell. And that is, God.
And how do you feel about that now?
Now, I think it says a lot about who I am now.
Yeah, it really does. I hate the movie. I can tell you that right now.
The Cell, oh man, there is a good movie in there, but it is not what is showcased there.
God bless Tarsem Singh, because
he's a terrible director. No, I'm sorry. It's super artsy and whatnot. It's a message I'm trying to say. No, dude, give us a good movie. Anyway, so let's talk about The Cell. So
production, wait, real quick. Production budget on this movie is $66 million with a box office total of $212.4 million.
Yeah.
So it made money. It made some good money, actually. Currently, it's sitting at 38% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So that's the critic score,
yes.
Right? Could you pull up the audience score?
The audience score? Go ahead and talk while I pull that up.
So Entrapment was one of those movies that we have to. All right, so there's two key parts to this movie, and one of them is the poor choices that Sean Connery decided to make in his late stage career. Keep in mind, Sean Connery turned down Gandalf.
Yeah, yes, he did.
And it turned down Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. He turned down. What did he all? He turned down. All right, let me talk about the first part. So a big part of the story is the Y2K bug, the Y2K reset. So what was Y2K? So in 1999, you had this fear of basically things were about to go down because really a computer has been made, and this is the first time that a new millennium was actually going to come through. Because of that, people were worried that it would basically reset computer data back to where bank transactions would basically, they could possibly lose all the money that's in your bank account because it's all in a bank. So you literally had people that were withdrawing everything from their accounts right at about this point, and stuffing it underneath their mattress because of how worried this is. This movie is clever in that they wanted to incorporate that same general idea of what the bug would actually be, to try to actually steal some money. And
the audience score of this movie is 50%.
That is about right.
Mm-hmm.
Because this movie is two things. It's awkwardly paced, but at the same time, there are some really good scenes in it. There's weird moments of how you feel about the chemistry of Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery, but at the same time, probably in 2019, it would be looked at a little bit more okay, or you're a gold digger.
Well, okay, so we talked about this before we got on the mic today. So we made the obvious, view of Catherine Zeta-Jones is married to Michael Douglas, who's clearly quite a spell older than her. Which with them, I think because we see more of them together as a married couple, you're more used to seeing them together versus the chemistry in this movie. They felt like father and daughter over anything else.
In some ways.
Right.
Yes.
So it felt kind of creepy.
And then in other ways, the problem was how Catherine Zeta-Jones was personified. Mm-hmm. She seemed like she was a rookie, but then there were times where she would make a really experienced move.
Right.
There were times where she was really, really about being independent, and then there were other times where she was really into Sean Connery. And it's one of those things where they try to build that chemistry so far up, but people were expecting the Mask of Zorro, Catherine Zeta-Jones, to come out,
which is my favorite.
Exactly, it's everybody's favorite because she was a darling in that.
Right.
The movie, Mask of Zorro would not be nearly as good without Catherine Zeta-Jones in that movie. Put in another actress. Put in a different actress.
At that time?
Put in a different... You know what? I'll even give you a big name. Put in Julia Roberts and tell me that the same movie is the same. No.
Mask of Zorro? No way. That doesn't fit at all. Maybe J-Lo.
J-Lo? No, not even at that time. Not even...
Was it 97?
She wasn't there yet. She hadn't hit her peak yet. She was getting there. She was on the way. She was 2 years away from hitting her peak.
Because the Cell is 99.
Which we all know how we feel about the Cell.
Money Train is what, 96?
Yeah, but nobody cares about Money Train. Okay, J-Lo...
Selena's 97. So she's there already.
No, that's when she got her break. Now she needs the sophomore. You see what I mean?
No. But yeah, okay.
And that's what the Cell was supposed to be. The Cell was supposed to be this big thing. So the other side of this is Sean Connery's ability to turn down big roles for other passion projects. For example, Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he decided not to do that and instead do The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Whew.
That was bad. He turned down...
One more time. Woo!
He turned down Morpheus and The Architect and The Matrix. And instead decided to do the Avengers movie that nobody remembers.
We're talking about John Steed and Emma Peel, with those that Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman, yeah. He had the ability to play Thomas Crown in the Thomas Crown Affair in the 1970s, which was a really, really great idea, but ultimately it went to Steve McQueen instead because he decided to turn it down. Simon Gruber in Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is arguably one of the best sequels ever made, even though it's a third movie.
Right.
It is comparable to the first Die Hard to ever be made. Instead, it went to Jeremy Irons. And finally, he had the chance to be John Hammond in Jurassic Park and turned that down. I'll
say this real quick.
So whoever was the agent for Sean Connery was really, really, really bad for him.
Can you really see anybody else playing Gruber except for Jeremy Irons?
Probably not.
I mean, like, honestly, like we've seen Sean Connery turn to playing a villain. He's not the best villain.
No, but imagine what he would have been like in Jurassic Park.
That's still different.
Imagine that dynamic.
I would have took that.
That dynamic of an old man basically going insane to turn the park into the role they wanted it to. But he turned down way too many roles.
Right.
Deckard in Blade Runner. He had the ability to be Deckard in Blade Runner.
Turn that down.
So it was almost like, it was funny because it was almost like Harrison Ford picked up all the roles that he should have picked. And that's why people almost like Harrison Ford a little bit better. He also had the ability to be Albus Dumbledore in Harry Potter. That would have been perfect for him. He's older, he could be a little kooky and weird, he just, And
now he's retired.
And now he's retired. He's retired, and unfortunately, he's retired to a point where the last movie people are going to remember him is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is boring. Yeah. So freaking boring. So let's get into this movie real quick. So this movie kicks off kind of weirdly paced because you get this really great action sequence of a guy dropping down, opening a window, cutting the frame of a Rembrandt out and stealing the Rembrandt and sliding the Rembrandt down into a mail chute, right? Then it cuts to New York. It cuts to New York where it's an insurance agency, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is there with dude from the Armageddon. I always forget his name.
Will Patton.
Thank you, Will Patton. I always want to say Wally, but I know it's not.
I
Wally.
hate his name in this movie. His name is Hector Cruz,
and he's not even Mexican.
No, nowhere near. He's from the South.
So Jen, who is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, is kind of this. She's definitely an outgoing personality, but she almost seems like she's already too good for her britches. In this, and she wants the ability to track the one guy that she thinks could have stole the Rembrandt. Okay, and that's Sean Connery, who plays McDougal or Mac. All right, and apparently he's a world famous thief. So he tracks her. She tracks him down into London. And what winds up happening is a alarm goes off as she's kind of tracking him, and coming to find out, all her clothes have been stolen. And as she goes to sleep that night, Mac is waiting for her in the room and trying to figure out what's kind of going on. Now, the idea is that she's an insurance agent, and she was basically going to play Sean Connery's character in this case to steal a major prize. In this case, it was a $40 million mask, Chinese mask from the Qing Dynasty or something like that.
Now, I will say this: Mac has the rule. The number one rule is you never carry a gun, and if you carry a gun, you may be tempted to use it.
Right.
Now, out of all the crazy rules that he has, that's probably the one that's probably the most logic.
Yeah, of course.
But unfortunately, my cut that out, which I'll bring up later, is another one of his rules. Makes no fucking sense, but continue. Right.
So they basically come to an agreement on how this is basically going to work out, and it's decided that Catherine Zeta-Jones would then will then train under Mac. Okay, mind you, the insurance company is kind of okay with this in a way. And in this process, she actually reveals that she was the person who stole the Rembrandt. And she's actually like some sort of master thief.
Right.
She's also a great acrobat, which unfortunately never comes into play in this movie.
But it looks really good in the trailer, though.
Sure, in the trailer it looks great, but it never comes into this play again, which is incredibly disappointing.
Yes,
because there was a lot that could have built off of that. And instead, come to find out, Connery actually stole the Rembrandt from her by stealing it from the mailroom, which is where it was sitting at this whole time.
So,
in this process, begins to kind of there is some chemistry, but it's still very professional like Connery's trying to figure her out, but you could kind of tell he's getting attracted to her. Jen thinks she pretty much has him by the ropes. But in the next process, you see Ving Rhames, who is Aaron Thibodeau, comes in with a whole bunch of equipment to kind of set this up. She's swimming in the lake, and it's basically explained at that point that basically Thibodeau is a partner to Sean Connery for whatever reason. Like, it's out there, but it's not really like for Sean said. So making a very complicated thing to steal this mask. The idea is that they need to figure out where all the lasers are going to be in front of this mask. So they do this thread bell thing where if you basically hit a red thread, then you're triggering the warning. There's also a pressure plate that's involved as well.
At what point does Jen actually contact Cruz?
So this happens this happens right about that time because eventually what happens is if she winds up succeeding at the practice rounds, they kind of get into a little bit of an argument. Thibodeau earlier had mentioned how she's a size 6, but she would look good in a size 4, which is weird. Fun fact, I guess. I don't know ladies' clothing, but I didn't realize that you would go 2 sizes too small for yourself. But if you look like Catherine Zeta-Jones, I guess it works for you.
At the time.
Well, let me be fair. At the time. Because that Catherine is absolutely gorgeous in this movie.
Right.
So she decides to go out and basically make this call to Hector Cruz at a nearby telephone booth. Go ahead.
Now, little does you know, the whole island is bugged. At this point right now, Mac is able to eavesdrop on the whole conversation. Now, Mac also makes sure to keep Jen's romantic advances, to the side. Unsure if she is a true partner in crime or just, this ambitious career woman. just on a mission.
Right. So she gets back from this phone call that Mac has totally completely listened to, and you are aware of this. Meets her up at the top of this, and basically just couldn't decide if he wanted to kill her then or not. And that's one thing about this movie that's a little bit different than what you would see later on in heist movies. There is very minimal violence in this. There's a lot of action without there being a lot of violence involved, which is a little refreshing, to be honest. Like of course, it would make stuff easier if you could just shoot every single guard and then do whatever. But it's kind of refreshing to see these thieves literally try to play it out like we really don't want to hurt anybody, but we really want the stuff that's still there. So It's kind of a little chaotic, like chaotic good if you're a D&D person, if you wanted to do so. So they plan to steal this mask, and the idea is that they're going to detonate a bottom panel in the room to the chimes of a clock at midnight, and then basically using cameras figure out where the lasers are basically at, and Catherine Zeta-Jones would then basically steal. And lo and behold, it works out perfectly.
Right.
Okay. There's very little case. But on the way back to actually doing so, on the way back from the theft, Mac decides to attempt to drown Catherine Zeta-Jones in a really, really weird game of truth or dare. And the truth is, you've been playing me all this time, and the dare is, I dare for you to lie.
Yeah, I remember that when I first saw this movie. That scene definitely stuck out to me. 'Cause I was just like, this is an odd game of truth or dare. Truth or die, really.
Can you imagine if you did that to somebody nowadays? You're just, somebody like betrayed you. And,
okay, truth or dare.
Just holding them down in the bathtub. I dare you to lie to me.
I can't really talk. I'm kind of drowning right now. It's all good.
So, Jen convinces him that she's basically playing the agency.
Right.
All right, that she actually really is a master thief in this process, and that she really, really, really has one big goal. And if this sounds similar to another movie, it is, and I'll tell you what it is here in a second. The goal is to steal $8 billion from the, first of all, what a weird bank name, the International Clearance Bank.
It's very to the point.
But International Clearance Bank, as if like who would invest into that bank? It sounds like my money's just going everywhere, or it's being discounted. Clearance. When I think of clearance, I think of a clearance rack.
Oh, so it's cheap money.
Yeah, it's cheap money.
Huh. But it's in the Nerve Towers of the Petrona Towers, they're set up cruising this team with the guidance of Thibodeau.
Which, by the way, Jen has no idea what that relationship is all about.
Right. I don't think she knows they even know each other at this point.
No. She knows that he has been around because she saw him.
Right.
She saw him basically get into the delivery truck and go off, but she doesn't understand what the relationship is between them. Mm-hmm. So in this process of doing so, the only way for her to get the proper equipment to actually pull off this job is to turn in both the mask and the Rembrandt to what would probably be my disgusting that fool award. Goes to Green, who's played by Maury Shaken. And first of all, this guy doesn't ever wear a shirt.
Ever.
And he's a fat, disgusting slob pig. All right. Like, he looks disgusting. It looks like he's wearing lipstick, and not in the good way. And it just, he creeped me out so much in this. It just, you ever just like look at an actor afterwards, after seeing them in a role, and just like, I can't see it the same way.
Yeah, usually those are ones with like a super hairy chest, look like you have a sweater on, but you don't. And it's an odd vibe.
It's like if Christian Bale...
Like you smell in a weird way. Like you smell like spoiled milk.
It'd be like if Christian Bale had never landed the role of Batman, and the movie you remembered him from was The Machinist.
That's creepy. That's just creepy. Like, dude, you're like... Was like a $1.05 in that movie?
Oh, man. He was so disgusting in that also. Anyway, so in this process of doing so, the mask is actually stolen by Mac because, well, he just doesn't trust it. Like, and it kind of makes sense. Like, if he had a buyer for these masks, like the mask by itself is $40 million. You know, and the Rembrandt obviously could probably fetch for about the same amount as well.
Right.
That's $80 million, easy, out of the way, no problem. But the reason why he's really being pushed is because his partner Thibodeau basically forces him to do the job at that point. In which case, it comes back to a bit of a heartbroken Jen, and they kind of make up. It's not sexual, but it's definitely a little uncomfortable to kind of see the chemistry
It's
at
just
that
a whole
point.
weird vibe on the
There is.
It feels more like father-daughter than star-crossed lovers.
It's weird because if Catherine Zeta-Jones had been more public with Michael Douglas, because they really kept their relationship private, kissing in public and whatnot. I think I would have been more okay 20 years later watching this. Right. Then I'm still like a little whatever.
This is gross.
This is still just a little bit off.
Right.
But so what is this grand master plan? Well, it's still $8 billion from the International Clearance Bank. And the idea is very simple. They need a certain code to get through, and then download it on a disk. At one point, all of the banks in the world, well, not in the world, but all the banks that are tied to this, basically clears out its money through the Kuala Lumpur site. In which case, tiny little transactions would have been made during this time, and all those transactions to update itself to the 2000 software would have basically equaled up to $8 billion in transactions that would have happened.
Right.
Okay. What does that sound like?
Like a great day for somebody.
It does. It also sounds like Office Space. Literally, you're putting a disk into a computer.
Oh, it does.
You're putting a disk into a computer to literally collect microtransactions to actually do so, except they know for a fact it's going to hit $8 billion. In fact, it hits $8,001.67 to be exact. So
you can keep that at $1.67. It's all right.
Right, yeah. That's your finder's fee.
Yeah, you keep that.
But come to find out, so in this process of doing so, right when the plan finally works, and it does work, and it works beautifully, as she decides to unplug the computer, a security system trips itself. Now, before this, the Wally, I'd like to say Wally, but it's Will Patton. Will Patton's character, has caught on to her and is thinking that she's basically going to double cross him, but she swears up and down that he's not. Of course, that's a lie. And Mac kind of falls through with the plan with her, and you get this really great, interesting shot of a crossing of a bridge with New Year's Eve lights, and I just felt like watching this scene. I was like, you know what would be great right about now? Your fantastic rock climbing skills that was mentioned earlier in the movie.
You would never quite showed.
They never showed after that scene. And sure enough, of course the lights kind of start falling through, whatever, they Hollywood it up a little bit. But they still find a way to land properly, because Mac has basically Mac found a way to basically climb up to a certain point for them to be safe.
Right.
Also in this process, before that, Mac had given 2 parachutes to one another as a plan B,
and she lost hers.
And she did lose hers.
Right.
That's right. She did lose hers in this process. So Mac, as a last resort, basically says, meet me at this train station, the Poodoo train station, at 6:30 in the morning, right? And that's where you find me. And you know my rule: if I'm not there on time, I'm dead. So she goes down. She goes down literally a stored chute. Yeah. She goes down a stored chute. Obviously, pulls the ripcord and floats her way down to safety. The next day, she shows up. It's 6:30. He's not there. She decides to wait 5 minutes later, and he winds up showing up
with Aaron Thibodeau.
That's right, with Aaron Thibodeau and also Hector, and also Hector, you know,
Hector Cruz.
Hector Cruz playing the whitest guy. Anyway, so at this point, you kind of get the idea of where the movie is going, because this is kind of getting towards the end of it. To wrap it up, Mac gets 1 minute, and come to find out, Thibodeau is an FBI agent that caught Mac years ago and has basically cut him a deal ever since. He winds up storing $1 billion on a disc and hands it to her, as it looks like she's about to be turned in. But in the other pocket, she pulls out a handgun that was initially given to her a long time ago from Hector Cruz, looking like she was actually going to kill Mac.
Right.
One thing led to another. Everybody kind of goes away. Thibodeau winds up getting paid. Oh, this is where things kind of come full circle. In the process, at the very beginning of the movie, or not the very beginning, but when you first get introduced to the alarm sounding in London, where Sean Connery is staying at, computer chips, each totaling $4 million a pop, is stolen from there. Of course, Mac had wound up actually stealing it, and to actually help pay off his debt, he gives each of those 4 computer chips back to Thibodeau, and apparently their debt is basically sealed at that point.
Right.
So, and they walk away scot-free with $1 billion at hand.
Now she boards the train, and the FBI heads to the next station. At this point, she jumps train mid-station, arrives back at Purdue, tells Mac that she needs him for another job, and of course they board the train,
and that's it. And that's the end of the
that's
Entrapment.
that.
Now, Jay, with this movie, I've done a lot of talking in this, but with this movie, do you think that this movie could actually be remade?
Yes, I feel like we are now in a era to where, number one, remakes are just all over the place, one, and then two, everybody loves a good crime caper.
Right.
Everybody loves, especially films like Ocean's 11, even though Ocean's 8 wasn't whatever. But people love a good crime caper. People want to see, will you get to that thing you're trying to get to this whole movie? And then when you finally get to the thing you're trying to get to, will you get away?
Right. To kind of capitalize on that. You stated, will you get to the thing they finally get to? It's kind of like National Treasure in that case. Mm-hmm. National Treasure was great for 2 reasons. One, they actually made Nicolas Cage kind of likable in this movie, and the dynamic
bit of a badass.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a badass with his knowledge, with all of his knowledge that he had going on. Mm-hmm. The concept was insane, but also interesting at the same time. And the idea of, is there just going to be a next clue, or is it finally going to get to somewhere? Right. And the payoff at the end of the movie was really good.
Yeah, I agree. And to speak on National Treasure real quick, I remember when the trailer had came out, and this is basically the the essence of a movie about watching a caper pull off. I remember when the trailer came out, and he flat out says, "I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence." We're
like, just sounds so ridiculous.
And do what with it?
Right.
But when you watch the movie and the clues and the set piece, like, oh, this is pretty fucking dope. Actually, the way it's coming together. Right. For a movie that's pretty non-violent, it works.
Exactly. So, but I gotta ask this. With a movie like Entrapment, what would you have done to make it a little bit better, more memorable?
Not such dumb agents. I'm not gonna call them dumb. I love the cat and mouse game. I love the fact that you have the thieves, you have the agents that are hot on the trails. Nobody's working together, or you have that one agent that's working both sides. But I've always enjoyed that cat and mouse game where you have the thief. He's close to getting to that prize, but you have the agent that's hot on their trail, and at any moment they're gonna cross paths, and it's just gonna go left. Best example: Robert De Niro and Pacino in Heat. Yeah, eventually they're going to meet, and you also know eventually that De Niro is going to play out his plan, and Pacino's gonna be right there when he does. When it does, it's just gonna go ape shit.
Yep.
That's keep me on the edge of my seat. So more so that surprise factor, and then let me know when these guys cross paths. Oh, what's the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the one thing I would change with this is a little bit of the pacing of the story.
It's slow.
No. It actually goes too fast in the beginning. Like, I had no time to actually establish if I liked the dynamic, if I liked the characters individually before they're kind of, mixed in together.
Right.
The other thing I'd probably change is maybe a little bit more the dynamic of Catherine Zeta-Jones' character or the other way around with Sean Connery's character.
Right.
Because Catherine was, at one point, she just fell a little too hard. And I just felt like, I was like, man, you're just going to get screwed over in some way, shape, or form. But one thing that really worked for me in this movie was definitely introducing the concept of a real thing, which is the Y2K scare, and turning that into an actual plot point.
Right.
Whether it made people feel better is up for debate, but I definitely feel like after that, it gave people kind of a little bit more perspective of what is actually likely to happen instead, and probably try to give some people some ideas on how they could actually still, $8 billion.
100%.
No doubt about it. All right, let's get into
some takeaways.
Takeaways.
Who's getting you that guy?
It's difficult to give it to anybody but Sean Connery. Connery is at his charming older age at this point, which you can kind of take or leave at this point. You can. There are times when Connery in his older age was having a grand old time, and then there are times in, say, The Rock, where when Connery says, "Winners go home and fuck the prom queen."
That's my favorite Connery.
And that line in that movie, oh man, it stood out to me because I don't know if I actually like the line or not, but I remember it. I remember it really well. Anyway, so in this role with Connery, he's kind of back to his old antics. I kind of wish he was a little bit more badass, but at the same time, like he's kind of established himself at that point in his career. I just think it would have helped out the movie just a little bit.
That chick work.
I think it's pretty easy. It has to go to Catherine Zeta-Jones. There was literally no other chick in this movie. I'm serious. I'm serious. There's no other chick in this movie, and again, kind of speaks about the 1990s a little bit, about where we were in terms of women in film.
Very male driven.
It was very male driven. It was very white male driven also.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, of course. So, but Catherine Zeta-Jones, there are a lot of times where you could tell that she's being her fiery self in Zorro. At the same time, you also feel like, wow, she's really not hitting the points that she did in Zorro as well.
And this for Lord.
I kind of have to give it to Hector Cruz.
Wow.
Because Cruz, like, Will Patton is a fine actor. He really is. This was definitely not the right named role for him. I mean, it would have been so much better if they just would have replaced Will Patton with like George Lopez. To be honest, like then the name Hector Cruz would have made a whole lot of sense. But instead, like we kind of had to take everything with a grain of salt with him. And to be honest, what he should have done in the beginning, is the minute that they find out that she stole the mask, is just arrest her right then and there. It's possession. Just bring him in. He literally says in the movie, it would have been so much better if I just brought them in. So it's like you already said the folly of your own plans.
Right.
So you already know how much of a fool you were.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that. Cut that out.
There's a lot that I would cut out, but probably the truth or dare scene with Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Like, very aggressive game of truth or dare.
It was. It not only was it aggressive, I almost felt like it was unnecessary as well.
Right.
It would have been so much more effective if he put a gun to her face and just had like a small interrogation. Instead, I have to see this scene of her basically getting drowned by Connery, and it didn't fly with me. I never felt like she was in danger.
Right.
Instead, if he would have pointed a gun at her face, he would have broken his own rule in that case. And that would have been so much better, especially because he decides to break his rules in this movie more than once.
Iconic scene.
Training montage. has to go to the training montage scene, especially with when she finally completes the first practice, because you could tell that she really cared about getting this job done and cared about having Mac in there as well, because she even says the line, "It's like you have a hard time trying to be nice to me." You know, when he criticizes her over something that, you know, that she also needed to practice as well.
Right.
But because of that, it definitely made a defining role for that. It wasn't. I can't say it's more iconic than other scenes in this movie, but for me, it's that.
Nice.
My God, Jay and Lonzo, who's getting you that guy award?
Of course, it's gonna be Mac. Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
He in every movie he's done up to this point, he's always been that charismatic, crazy smooth in everything he does. You know, everyday leading man. Now, I will say that my favorite Sean Connery is The Rock Sean Connery. Even though that line is ape shit, but I do love. Since I was able to watch Sean Connery movies and really understand them, Sean Connery in The Rock has always been like, yo, he is fucking dope. Just the way he carries that character. Now, I would say the same. He has that same charm with Mac. Not as much, but you know, Mac in this is very dialed down versus, you know, how just off the scale he is in The Rock. So for me, you know, obviously, you know, with that being our leading man, I give it to Sean Connery. Mac.
Yeah, I think that's fair. This wasn't my favorite role of Connery's, and neither is The Rock's. I kind of have to give it to The Hunt for Red October, but I'm a big fan of that movie also. I know a lot of people that don't like that movie at all. Right. And a lot of people are like, oh, Connery should have been replaced with that. I'm like, fuck you. Like, he was amazing in that.
Right.
Who's getting you that chick award?
Well, clearly it's Jen. I mean,
right, of course.
I could have given it to the
it's the two.
Girl, but, you know.
It's the two top billing stars.
Clearly, yeah. Catherine Zeta-Jones, who, you know, we didn't really mention. She was on a solid run by the time the movie came out because, you know, there's The Haunting, which also comes out later on in 1999.
I had a major problem with that movie, but that's okay.
I did too, but, you know, far as her getting booked for a bunch of shit, like, she was around. Like, she was definitely around for a good little while.
I mean, think about that 4-year, really that 4-year arc that she had. She had Mask of Zorro that came out in 98, right? She had Entrapment. She would win her Oscar in Chicago. Right, she would wind up being in Ocean's 12 and also The Terminal. The Terminal is underrated for, you know, what it is.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, she definitely had some roles for a little while. It just, you know, there were times where she was really great, and then there are times where you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
Funny enough, do you know what her nationality is?
Isn't she Australian?
Mm-mm.
What is it?
She is Welsh.
Welsh.
She
like Tom Jones.
Yeah, she is straight up Welsh.
Huh.
You know,
I thought Tom Jones was black for a long time.
Yeah, right. I'm there with you.
I thought he was black for a long time. It's like I thought Catherine Zeta-Jones was like Spanish.
I would have been right there with you. You know, I know her. It is, God, what is it? I think it's her mother. Her mother is of a Latin descent, but I can't remember which one it is. I can't remember.
Whatever. Anyway.
It's fine. So that chick award goes to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
Who's getting you that full award?
Clearly it's Hector Cruz. For no reason or another. Why the fuck is Will Patton playing somebody named Hector Cruz? It makes no sense whatsoever. Like,
it would have been so much better if they would have just said like Patrick Dempsey. You know, if they would have just named him Patrick Dempsey. You know,
or hey man, William Scott or some shit like
there
that.
You
like
go.
something that makes sense for him. Because listen,
Tony Blair.
The one thing about Will Patton, who's a great actor by the way, but you know he's always had the role where he plays a Southern born dude. You know, whether it's Remember the Titans, Gone in 60 Seconds, he's always had that southern twang. He talks like, a lot like this and da da da. Why are you Hector Cruz? I never understood that.
I don't get it either.
Anyway,
it was. It's not that he's miscasted; it's that the name sticks out like a sore thumb.
The name is miscasted.
Yeah, the name's miscasted. I don't know. That was a bad move. Cut that out.
I was gonna go with the Fatal Truth or Dare game, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it to the line. I'm never late. If I'm late, it's because I'm dead. It's so corny.
It is corny.
It's extremely corny. I don't know who wrote this, but that wasn't it.
I always feel like what would have been a better line if he just would have done Ace Ventura there. If I'm not back in 5 minutes,
just wait longer.
Just wait longer.
It made more sense,
right? All right, and iconic scene.
This is funny. My iconic scene is not even in the movie. It's actually Catherine Zeta-Jones eluding the laser alarms with her incredible.
It's not even in the movie.
It's not even in the movie. But I remember I was interested in seeing this movie because of that exact scene.
Right.
Because the way she bends her body, I was like, well, damn. Okay.
10-year-old Jay. It's like, well, damn.
Damn. She got some cakes back there. But yeah, that'll be my iconic scene. And I'm mad because like this around this time we start to notice things that are in the trailer are not in the fucking movie, which pisses me off.
I know
a lot.
that drives me nuts. It's like watching a YouTube video with a thumbnail that's not even in the movie.
Like this is not in the movie. What the hell? Yeah, that gets my nerves. But I also do love that particular shot. It's a great shot.
All right,
quick hits.
Yeah, takeaways, quick hits.
All right, let's knock out some quick hits real quick. The movie came in $2 million below its budget. Co-producer Rhonda Tollefson credits this to producer Sir Sean Connery's thrifty Scottish ways. Connery drove his own car instead of hiring a driver and flew on commercial planes instead of using private ones.
Man, that would have been so cool to be on the same plane.
Like that fucking Sean Connery.
Fucking Sean Connery.
Oh my God. So that all of the money would show up on screen. Catherine Zeta-Jones performed some sources say all of the climbing and gymnastics in the rafters during the I Stole the Rembrandt sequence at Mac's Castle. Catherine Zeta-Jones was completely naked under the blankets when Sir Sean Connery sneaks into her room at night and interrogates her.
Oh.
This is why I love that scene. That's a great scene. Sir Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones' love scene was voted the second worst of all time by readers of American Movie Magazine Film in 2003. They were narrowly beaten by Sharon Stone and Joe Pesci in Casino. That is a horribly... Listen, Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones' sex scene in this movie is awkward, but Pesci and Sharon Stone in Casino is weird.
But did they even have a sex scene? No. I mean it. In Entrapment, there wasn't... Okay, what constitutes as a sex scene?
Maybe it's like a passionate kiss. Because Pesci and Sharon Stone, they actually have a sex scene.
Yeah, no, and that was awful. Man, I don't know.
It's odd.
Because I'm not denying that little extra scene okay, if you're gonna call that a sex scene, it's because nothing happens.
Right.
Literally, nothing happens. Not even blue balls happens.
No.
Like it was he
Pesci
rejected her straight
odd.
up. Like he rejected her straight up.
Pesci and Sharon Stone is just
They did not
so
have
odd.
their first passionate kiss until after. I mean, actual passionate kiss until after they completed the $8 billion job. Which, Jay, I'm going to tell you right now: if you and I steal $8 billion, I'm kissing you on the head. You know, because that would be and the head on the shoulders, guys. Come on. but I'm telling you, if I just got $8 billion.
I'm kissing somebody.
Somebody's getting kissed.
All right. Well, okay. Sir Sean Connery is 39 years older than Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah. And you can tell.
You can definitely tell. When Anton Fuqua was briefly attached to direct, he wanted to increase the action sequences. Fuqua envisioned a rather large, epic-scale car chase for the scene where Jen and Mac escape from the shady antique dealers. and the climactic heist was to feature more high-tech gadgets and much more intricate escape. Sir Sean Connery was not happy about Fuqua's plans for the movie. In a 1999 issue of Premiere Magazine, he said that Fuqua tried to turn the movie into The Rock, which Connery believed wouldn't have worked for this movie.
I kind of have to agree. Connery was never in this movie. Connery is not somebody that's going to outrun anybody, which is exactly why he didn't go down the chute.
Right.
You know, he knew when he was trapped, he was trapped. You know, it's not that I don't believe in the extra high tech or whatnot, but even Connery had a line in the movie. He's like, what the hell is this? He's all like, this is a plasma screen thing. You know, mine plasma, right? Woo, so bad, so high tech, right? And he had a problem with it. So I agree with Connery there because, well, he is a simple thief, but he does a lot of things in simple ways, which is kind of something about his charm in this movie. Like nothing about it is overly difficult what he's trying to do. It wouldn't work today,
no.
But it's not. Well, I don't know. It would work today if you had a good computer hacker. But anyways, that's a different ballgame.
We got two more here. Both Nicole Kidman and Angela Bassett had auditioned for the role of Jen.
Bassett would have been interesting.
Very interesting.
I still think Catherine.
But at the same time, Bassett was able to kind of do something sort of similar, which she did the score with.
With De Niro.
Yeah. And finally, here we go. Finally. Okay. Sir Sean Connery presented Catherine Zeta-Jones with her Best Actress in a Supporting Role Oscar for Chicago. So, you know, everything comes full circle. In a way. Sort of, kind of.
Don't they usually give that to the Best Actor?
Yeah, if he comes out to present, he's giving it to the Best Actor.
No. If he comes out to present, he gives it to the Best Actress.
Right.
But that also means that he would have won Best Actor the year before. What came out during that? Finding Forrester, maybe?
He wasn't nominated for that, was he?
I don't think so.
I don't think the movie made that much money.
Why was he 2002?
2002, that's when Chicago won.
No. 2003 is when Chicago won.
Right. 2002, the movie came out.
Right. 2002 Academy Awards.
Finding Forrester came out in 02 as well.
A Beautiful Mind. So it should have been Russell Crowe because Crowe won the Academy Award that year. Huh. I wonder why.
Because of Sean Connery, man.
No. Denzel won it in 2002.
For Training Day.
About? What the?
Yeah, he won for Training Day.
Yeah, because he actually beat Russ.
Huh.
Well,
that's... Huh.
Man, I just thinking of that 2002, like who Denzel beat that year, and it's
that was a strong race. I believe it was
Will Smith and Ali,
Denzel, Russell Crowe,
and Wilkinson.
Johnny Depp.
No, Wilkinson. Into the Bedroom.
Okay, but Johnny Depp was there too for
2002
for Finding Neverland.
No, that was like 04.
Really?
Yeah, because 2003 is when Pirates would have came out.
Right.
04, he got Finding Neverland. I remember stocking the shelves at Hollywood Video for it.
Hollywood Video days. Well, that's today's show. Not a bad one. Mostly was done by Dave because Dave likes the movie. I pretty much didn't.
Sean Penn. I Am Sam.
I Am Sam. Yeah. You're right. Yep. Dave, let people know where you can find you, man.
You can always find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at David Danger Neff. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics. We also have a movie review show that we're trying to figure out unique and interesting ways to actually bring it back. So we are definitely open to suggestions on that. We're also open to suggestions on other things that we can do for the show. I'm strongly considering doing a what went wrong with the movie and how I would have fixed it. For certain movies, I actually have like a list of movies already in my mind, starting with Dragon Ball Evolution. Just don't make the movie. I'm just kidding. No, I know I would
burn it.
I would burn it. But But yeah, we were at the Level Up Expo. There was a reason why we decided not to talk about it today, and the main reason why is because we actually have a guest from the Level Up Expo that we're going to talk about his experience with it, as well as his experience on other things that he's done with it. So look out for that episode. We did do camera work for it. I thought the expo was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Personally, but we'll see how your guys' reaction is going to be with it. So yeah, you can catch me on those things. My co-host, Jay Alonso, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the let's do that again. You can find me on all the social media simply at I am Jay Alonso. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You talk to me and I'll talk back. Of course, the Back to Classics Facebook page, Back to the Classics, a movie talk page is on Facebook. Go ahead and jump on that. Join the conversation. There's been a lot of fun stuff on that one. A lot of interesting reactions to that Sonic trailer, which is I find it very surprising that people actually cared enough to take a look at it.
Well, if you think about it, like back in the day, like Sonic was one of my first video games I ever played.
Yeah.
Of course I had a Nintendo, but when I got the Sega Genesis in '93, I was like hyped because it came with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It didn't even come with the first one.
That's with Tails, right?
Yeah, that's one with Miles, yeah.
Yeah, Miles Tails probably. My fucking last name, which I thought was crazy.
Fox with two tails. Come on.
Yeah, hey, whatever. But of course, we are here at Back to Classics right here on BeatNetworkOnline.com. Thank y'all for tuning in. And like Dave said, we have a special guest. He's been on the show before, so it's almost like bringing a friend back to the DeLorean. And we'll also cover the Level Up Expo stuff as well. With that being said, did I say everything?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, so shout out to the whole Beat Network crew. I'll be in Ohio next week.
Oh, boy.
Shout out to my grandma and her 80th birthday party. We're going to go out there and turn up all the way up. If you happen to see me in Cleveland, I don't know who listens to me in Cleveland, but come on out, say what's up. With that being said, this is Back to Classics, and of course, I am Jay Alonso with my guy.
Danger Nav.
See you next week.
See ya.
Peace.